Hello, hello, and happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah, Killgoon with me as always, and we got to bring back the GOAT, LermyWermy here. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff that's happened over the course of the week after Closed Alpha 5 launched earlier. What was on Tuesday?
Yesterday.
Yeah, I know, it's insane.
Time flies.
Time is flying.
Yesterday. It's insane. Then Lermy's here with us, and as people in chat have already kind of figured out, when Lermy's here, we got to talk about some balance stuff, right?
It's balance bit.
So we'll definitely be getting into that in just a little bit, but we do want to go over, we had a patch yesterday, actually a couple patches yesterday, fixing a couple of issues. I will bring up the laptop. And we had a couple bug fixes go out yesterday. We fixed an issue where Kernanos' Bramble Blast had incorrect intelligence scaling. We had to disable him for a couple hours, but he's back live, ready for play again. We also fixed an issue with Hercules, mitigate wounds, granting 2 stacks of apotheosis. And then another one that's not listed here, but we did post on social media. We fixed an issue with Bologna getting into a state where she couldn't basic attack. So that should be fixed up. Still got a lot of known issues kind of on our docket that we're trying to fix.
Yeah.
I know specifically there's some console-specific and gamepad-specific issues that we're working on.
Yeah, I think the console item store is definitely the biggest game-impacting bug right now. So you cannot see the hybrid items listed right now in the new console item store. Something we're definitely aware of, and we're already working on a fix. I believe the fix went live internally this morning for testing, and then once we verify that it's working, we'll push a build out to y'all, and it'll be fixed. So very soon. Sorry, we missed that initially. And there's a couple other smaller things, but just not being able to find certain items feels bad.
Exactly.
So, other than that, hopefully the new console store is feeling good to everybody.
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward to hearing some feedback. We've got the survey live that you can get to if you are in game. You can just hit the escape menu and then go to fill out the survey. We're going to be posting that survey out on social media here in a little bit as well, just so we can hear what you all think about Closed Alpha 5 and all the new changes. Ra and Sobek released. Saw lots of good clips. I saw Bobby's horribly insane tank Ra build that he posted on social media.
I looked at that and I was like, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the dirty bubble making a return? I don't know.
Well, there's no bubbles, so it can't be a dirty bubble without a bubble. But it is dirty. I will say that.
Hey, Bobby, if it works for you, keep running. We love to see it.
He's Bobby.
I do see a comment here in chat from Vibe saying, hello, are you aware that game's performance got worse by a lot? Yes, we are aware that some players are having significantly worse FPS on this build. It seems that they're basically... Game performance comes down to multiple different threads of things that are happening at the same time. And one of the threads has some issues in this build on certain hardware setups. Right. So we have been diagnosing that this morning, and we should have a fix for it relatively soon. So it's not just we're like, oh, yeah, performance is worse, whatever. No, we take this very seriously. It just didn't show up too much in our internal testing because it's only specific hardware configurations. But I know, like Nico was saying that he went from, he's got a super badass computer. He went from like 300 frames a second down to like, 100 in some situations. So definitely an issue, and we are working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, that's just kind of quick and dirty of the patch that went live post Closed Alpha 5. You ready to talk about some of the max charts that we've got going on here?
Let's talk balance.
We love to talk balance.
We love charts.
So
We love data.
I'm going to bring up the chart here, and I might get us out of the way here depending on how much of the screen we're covering.
A little bit of the bottom.
A little bit of the bottom
so
here.
let's pop on
out of here. Get us out of here.
Here is our max data chart for
God performance.
Yeah, God performance across the board for
in
ranked. Yes. So as you can see here, we have our x-axis being popularity, y-axis being win rate. So the higher you are vertically, the more you're winning. The farther you are to the right, the more popular you are. And there's just our data that we have so far in this specific slice of the population.
And I guess you would assume if players were optimizing, it should look like a line that starts at the bottom left and goes up to the top right, right? Because the more a character wins, the more that people should be wanting to pick them.
Exactly,
Yeah, so in general, we're seeing a pretty close to that, honestly, in a couple places. We're definitely seeing some standouts, being our Kurnos, Ama, and then, further to the right, Nua, Anubis, Fenrir, also just kind of sitting in a pretty solid place. Like, if we're getting people really far to the right, but closer to that middle line, that's like peak.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly what we like to see. So we're thinking that those guys are pretty solid so far. Keeping an eye on them still, of course. But yeah, after the buffs last week to Kurnos, we're definitely seeing him rise up the ranks. And now he's just kind of catching up with that perception where players, are starting to hear, ooh, Kurnos got buffed. Maybe I'll try Kurnos again. So we'll keep an eye on him as that continues to go forward. And so he's one that we've got our eyes on. Another very interesting character that I want to point out is Zeus. We talked about Zeus before. The last time I think that I was on the show and that we showed off these charts, Zeus was super far bottom left quadrant. We did a lot of really big buffs to him. We did some bug fixes as well. And now look where he is. He's actually very popular.
Moving on up.
And not insanely winning either, right? So I think in general, we're seeing that he's in a pretty good spot where people are now getting used to him, like actually feeling relevant, which is good. He before was definitely potent in the right situations, but because he now is feeling better all around, people are trying him more. I think people are starting to understand that he is a viable character. So one thing that we will go forward with here when we're talking about more of the balance is that, keep some of these things in mind, and I'll keep picking and choosing, different things to talk about here because it's just a bunch of data points, right? But one of the important things that I want to kind of focus on is we're trying to address why characters are on the left side of the chart here. These are the less popular characters. Are they there because they just had a nerf, so they get moved down because people go, oh, they got nerfed, I don't want to play them anymore? Are they there because they have bugs? Are they there because they have some kind of other perception issue? Are they actually just bad? Those are things that we use a lot of other data to kind of run through and kind of decipher for those characters and then shift them around accordingly.
Yeah, and I think bugs specifically, right? Like Kurnos being enabled for a short period of time with broken scaling probably affected his win rate a little bit.
A little bit.
And Hercules had a bug when we first started out yesterday where he couldn't knock up minions to clear them easily, which I think we got addressed, right? Yeah. So that probably affected his win rate a little bit, even though he definitely is a lot more balanced than he was even without that issue.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Shall we move on to the next max chart where we look about build popularity?
Builds, yeah. So you can see here we have a very nice smattering of builds kind of on the left-hand side, and then a couple really far outliers to the right. But again, what you'll notice is that these guys are not too high on the chart. They're just incredibly popular. So there again, things that we're keeping our eyes on. But honestly, Anubis, Int, Nua, Int, and Loki strength seeming pretty just solid
Pretty
across
standard,
the board.
yeah.
If people are feeling like they're effective and they're not too damaging to their games, then we're going to leave them there because, again, if we're just having outliers in popularity, that's not a bad thing, right? If some things are really, really popular but not incredibly good, we're chilling. What we do want to look at, though, is a lot of the characters that are sitting on, again, this left-hand side of the chart. Especially the characters on the bottom left-hand side of the chart. And this is also just the 20 top most popular god builds. So even if there's a build not on this chart, that also is important for us to consider because they're not even good enough to make the chart in that instance. So that's also another possibility for things that we need to look at. So again, just for you guys to kind of get a general gist of the information that we're working with, this is just a small snippet of the charts and the data because we also have things for items, we have things for various other amounts of conquest, various things, arena, various things. This is just specifically in the slice of ranked over a couple of days with the top 40 builds. So here's your overview.
I would also say this is this graph is zoomed in basically from 40 to 60%,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
So this is going to make everything look more spread out than it actually is if we were showing like 100% chart. So these percentages matter, and this is the balance range that we're working within. But yeah, just it's not like Amaterasu's 100% win rate because she's at the top of the chart, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But it does give us very good targets to take a look at, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit.
Sweet. Well, those are our max charts for the day, and I'm going to pass it over to Lermy because she's been cooking up our next balance patch that's coming up kind of midway through closed alpha 5, and she has a lot of notes that she's going to go over because we've got some pretty spicy changes kind of upcoming. That's not to say that everything that we talk about on the show is for sure going to happen. But one of the things that we think is really cool about having Titans Talk is we can talk about these things with you all first and kind of get a feel for how you all think they're going to shake out, and then make adjustments based on your feedback before the patch actually goes live. So that's what we're going to do.
Very, very helpful for us to get that information. And especially if there's a gut reaction of you guys all going, no, do not do this. We're not going to do it. If you guys don't like it, by all means, we won't do it. We want to try to, again, make changes that are going to feel good for you guys. They're going to feel exciting as well. So we have to keep all of those things in mind as we go forward. But before we even get into some of the balance, there are some bug fixes that we're looking at right now, specifically involved with some amount of balance that are coming in the near future for some like smaller scale things that are worth looking at. For Sobek, we're fixing an issue we're in the process of. So these are not done yet, but they will be coming very soon. We fixed an issue with Charge Prey, where the ability was stopping on player-made deployables. So like Danza 2, Neath Weave
is the big one.
Yeah, which is coming up a lot. So that's one. We also fixed an issue where the post-fire of Charge Prey was not in parity with Smite 1. For Sickening Strike on Sobek as well, we fixed an issue where Sobek is only healing for up to 3 targets hit, which was intended to be 4. And then one more kind of bug fix, kind of not, for Kukulkan. Something that's live right now that we missed in the patch notes that I want to go over because it's really, really cool, is that Kukulkan's Tornado is now in complete parity with Smite 1 in terms of its timing. So it comes out a little bit faster, deploys a little bit faster, but the important cool thing about this is that Slipstream, the dash version of it, you can use this dash. You used to have to wait for the tornado to come all the way up. You can use it while the tornado is still deploying.
Oh, nice.
So the
That's
second that you put it on the ground, you're able to dash, so it feels so much smoother. You can 3 and then 2 right away, and it will feel really smooth and really fluid. And that's live right now, by the way. We missed that in the last note. Sorry about that. But get your Kukulkan games in. Hopefully that feels really nice for you guys as well. One other bug fix that we're working through right now is that Bacchus no longer has hit reactions, which means like he's not knocking back the minions with his belch. That was something that we were testing, and we're trying to see, is this feeling better than Smite 1 parity? Is it not? Do we want to change things like this? And so one thing that we're looking at right now is to make sure that we are going back to the Smite 1 parity, unless people are like, this feels really great. So far we haven't gotten that feedback, but feel free to speak up in chat if you've tried it and you like it. That is one thing that we are looking at actively right now to make a decision on. But in general, we're looking to aim towards that Smite 1 parity. But that's kind of it for like the bug fix, bug update section. The first thing that I want to talk about today is a very big change.
Yes.
One thing that we're always looking at is time to kill. And it has been a humongous discussion across both games, right? Where like it is a really intense, visceral feeling, when you get CC'd and you die, or you just die so fast in the late game that you feel like you're just spending more time on the grayscale screen. One thing that we want to change going into Smite 2 is we want to have less extreme differences, and we want to kind of work things in slowly to increase or decrease time to kill. And one of the reasons that this even came up was because there was a lot of discussion around CC in Smite 2 and how strong CC is. And one of the things that we felt like was causing this reaction was that players do have less health in general than in Smite 1. So even though a lot of the CCs, in fact almost all of the CCs, are weaker in Smite 2 than in Smite 1, we were still getting this very visceral reaction that I'm getting CC'd and I'm dying. So the reason that we came to this point is that we want to experiment with a little bit of change, a small amount of change, to see if it improves it at all, to see, do we actually think that this is going to incrementally help it, right? Because again, we're not trying to solve this all in one go. We want to try a little bit at a time and see if we stop getting, or I guess not stop, but like we hear less of these CC complaints, because solving CC is not a one size fits all issue to resolve. So in general, we want to try other avenues versus just nerf CC, especially because a lot of players that are really stuck on specific gods, like if you play Amaterasu a lot and we nerf Amaterasu CC, we nerf her silence or stun duration, you go, well, that feels not as long as in Smite 1, and that kind of sucks. So we want to try to retain some of that feeling for characters and players that know those characters really well in and out, know as long as their CC is supposed to last. So in general, that's the idea. However,
chat is already starting to lose their minds because we're talking about it in generalities.
Yes.
This is not this. We're not doing
Again,
a 9.5
yes,
thing,
it's
guys.
not
This is
huge.
not. This
It's
is not
not
huge.
crazy, I
Small
promise.
steps. Small steps. We're trying small tweaks, and let us talk about the actual things. Go for it.
Yes. Okay. So let's actually talk about what we're doing. So the first thing that we're doing in general is that gods are having their per health or health per level increased by 15%. So 15% is really not that much when it comes down to it. It's about 200 health at level 20. And again, 200 health at level 20 is like half an item for some of the tankier items in the game. So it really is not that much.
Yeah.
I promise. It sounds like a lot.
So and because it's per level,
Yes.
early game time to kill will not change as a result of that.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So the volatility able to win in lane is good. And then I think what we're expecting with that change is it probably makes the most difference to actual like time to kill feel kind of more mid-gamey, right?
Yes, exactly. So one thing that we wanted to aim for specifically with the 15 health is that, or 15% health per level, is that people really like the early game volatility. And we definitely noticed that in Smite 1 as well, is that the early game feels great, totally chill, fine with that. What's not chill is towards the mid game and the late game where people are getting CC chained and dying right away. And again, we did try to initially go through the path of resolving CC first. That was the path of less resistance, right? That was like, we want to try hitting the obvious thing. And now let's hit other incremental things that also contribute to this factor, right? So again, not very much. A couple other things that kind of go in this direction. Let me just scroll through my notes so I'm not yapping out of nowhere.
And as you're looking, it is 15% on the per level HP,
Yes.
not on base HP, not on all the HP that you're getting from items. So like you said, it's, maybe 200 HP at level 20.
About.
Yeah. So it's not a huge change, but it should make a noticeable feels difference. And if people don't like it, we're patching the game every 2 days. So
Yes.
we can make it
Definitely make sure to give it a try.
Yes.
Give us your feels. And that's not the only thing that we're going to talk about here too. The other thing that has kind of come up a lot is penetration. In Smite 2, we don't have these hard caps on things like we used to in Smite 1, and that's really cool that I can go a build and not have to worry about my cooldown and not have to worry about my penetration, things like that. But one thing that we have noticed is that due to the way that the protections formula works, it is very intense, the difference between having 10 protections and no protections.
Yeah.
And if you are dealing 100% penetration, which is possible right now, it starts to feel really crazy, really, really crazy. And you wouldn't think so, right? Because, in your brain, you're like, well, 10 protections isn't that different from 20 protections. But just due to, the less amount of protections that you have, the more that they're worth, it really starts to add up. So one thing that we're looking at specifically is for Obsidian Shard and Titan's Bane. We've seen a lot of hybrid characters, even not hybrid characters, kind of go these two items together. And one thing that we did for Totem of Death, Demonic Grip, and the Executioner is give them all kind of this unique keyword, is the word that I'll use for it, where they don't have their penetration stack with each other. They come through the passives and not through the actual items stats themselves. So one of the reasons that we're looking to do this is because not only are hybrids getting access to this disproportionately compared to a lot of other characters, but we just feel like getting 40% in 2 items is really crazy, especially when combined with other items as well. It starts to, again, add up. You wouldn't think that the difference feels so crazy, but seeing some of the clips out there, seeing some of the testing of this build, we definitely have seen the difference between someone that's going 40% pen, like you would see in Smite 1, and 90 to 100% pen.
Yeah. So one more time, which are the items that all have the same keyword again now?
So Piercing is the one for Totem of Death, Demonic Grip, and the Executioner. And those guys are looking towards a nerf right now. It's not going to be specifically in the amount that it provides, but at the speed that it provides, because we still feel like it is important to have those really strong splash items if you want them. But they are available really, really easily right now. And then the other one, which is temp keyword Shattering. So we have Piercing and we have Shattering between Obsidian Shard and Titan's Bane. And Piercing and Shattering will stack, but two Shatterings don't stack. Two Piercings don't stack. Are the two big things to keep in mind. The other thing in general relating to penetration is that we want to kind of bring back the scale of items that have penetration a little bit, just because we feel like they're kind of, bounced around here and there in places that not necessarily don't make sense, but it just makes it really widely available to grab a little bit here, get a little bit there. We want to make sure that items have more of a unique identity beyond just like they're only good because they have penetration. So we're looking to bump up, strengthen it, bump up, any of these other kind of stats that they have, whether it's lifesteal, attack speed, etc., to make them feel more unique without needing to lean on the penetration for a crutch in that instance. So items that we're looking at specifically in that direction are Fatalis is one of them that we want to make that unique. Soul Reaver is another really big one that came up a lot is, this item has a really crazy passive. Why does it also have pen? Serrated Edge, just to give it a little bit more identity beyond the pen. Pendulum Blade is not the one that I was looking for. Oh, Pendulum Blade related to the Crusher. So the Crusher is the other one. And I think in regards to penetration, that's kind of it. So again, keep in mind that this is not meant to nerf carries specifically. We're trying to limit the abuse case where people are going 90, 100% penetration. Yeah. So giving more items, more unique stat lines that aren't so reliant on pen to decrease the wide availability of the pen stat and making sure that the stacking of penetration is not as crazy as it is right now.
And also, I'm sure somebody in chat at least is thinking, well, why not just put a hard 40% pen cap like we did in SMITE 1, right? Or it was 40%, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That was kind of like hidden knowledge where it was hard for players to understand that they didn't get value from buying things that took them over the cap, right?
Yeah.
And if you've been playing SMITE for a long time, makes sense to you, sure, whatever, you kind of burn into your brain. But like even mid-level players frequently overcapped themselves and didn't, or wanted to buy a certain item because it has an active on it in SMITE 2 or had a passive on it in SMITE 1 that you wanted, but then were making the bad decision to do it because they were already capped on, So we don't want to get into that situation where it's like you have to make certain decisions about what items to build or not build because of an artificial cap.
Yeah.
And more just fix the item or fix the issue with the item system itself.
Yeah. So again, we are not strictly nerfing items.
Yes.
We are removing, decreasing pen, or making the pen not stack as quickly or as much, and then buffing them to compensate in other directions to make them more unique as items that don't have to rely on the pen as much. But that's the TLDR on that. There are a couple other topics that we want to go through, but I also just want to read really quick
I was
going to
say
make sure
that's
that
kind of
we're
a good
catching up.
stopping point to like get kind of feels from Chad and see if there's any questions about anything that we just covered.
Yeah, if you
before we
guys
do
have any
anything
questions
else.
specifically about any of that pass, none of these changes are 100% final yet. We wanted to gauge your guys' opinion before we did any of this. So if this is sounding completely terrible, don't do this. Please do let us know because we want to keep those in mind to make sure that we are giving them adequate buffs or we're getting the right targets and things like that. So if it is, things that you have questions about, we want to answer them. What will the shattering effect do? Shattering is essentially just going to be 20% penetration, your basic attacks, abilities, etc. gain 20% penetration.
Yeah.
Have to see what the changes are. Okay.
Yeah.
Coast, if you have more thoughts, feel free to send them either my way or in the Ambassador Discord. Any of those places for your feedback is really helpful as well. Pen stacking is never fun, so I like this. That's good. Changes cool in Arena, not Conquest.
That's talking about making items cheaper so we finish.
Oh,
builds
I
every
see.
game.
Okay, yeah, that's also another axis for us to look at, is if these items are like, they were luxury items because they had pen on them, making them cheap early game items is a really interesting way to kind of shift up, the way and style that you build around these items versus, having, to maintain the luxury price while still, keeping that in mind. Would there be a chance for items to have % pen removed altogether if they don't need it? Yes, that is the plan in general for some items. Not all items, but some of them.
Why did we put flat pen on the game?
Flat pen is specifically only on the stacking items. And some of the reason why, we're a little bit cautious about flat pen is that flat pen mostly affects early game and squishy PvP as well. And in general, we feel pretty happy with the early game. TTK, something that we mentioned before, early game feels good. We're really cool with early game right now. So if we added more, I would be concerned about, damaging that a little bit. And also we want to make sure that those stacking items do have value. So keeping that pen in mind is also really important for those as well. But yeah, in general.
Yeah, so I think
I
Our
think that's
perspective
true.
is early game feels good. Mid game probably feels the worst right now.
Around the mid game.
And then like late game,
It's closer.
It's closer,
Yeah.
but it's a little bit off. And then people need to be able to end games a little bit easier once we get to a certain point. But that's not something we're addressing right now. So
Yeah. But that is topic number one.
Topic number one.
In a nutshell.
Yes.
Is looking at time decay. Time decay. TTK.
Time decay.
TTK. And that also has to do with penetration as well. That does contribute to that. Mostly towards the late game. All right. Next topic that I want to talk about is cooldown. Cooldown kind of falls in the same boat of, the uncapped nature of it being really exciting and really cool, but also really powerful as well. So one of the things that we've done over the past couple of patches is nerf a lot of the cooldown. So in general, we're keeping a close eye on it. We've been touching items that I think the notes that I have right now are for Breastplate of Valor, Genji's Guard, Spear of Desolation, Jotun's Revenge, as like the 4 items that kind of hit all of the angles for the cooldown still being really strong. And we are going to be seeing various nerfs to those items, but there also are going to be other variety of buffs in the patch as well to kind of add more things to those builds that aren't just, cooldown related, that are burst damage, or that are damage over time, or that are lifesteal, things like that, versus this cooldown being the focus of a lot of characters. I think for tanks as well, one thing that we're looking at is Berserker's shield has come up a lot. Gladiator's shield is also kind of in that conversation. Berserker's is an interesting case because it went to kind of this luxury item. Whereas in Smite 1, people are really used to it being this like laning phase item. Really cool, really fun to be able to like have these engagements where you bait someone, you get the Berserker passive, you're really strong. All that good stuff. But you don't get it as much in Smite 2 because it's like 2,700. I have it noted here. How much is it? 2,800.
Yeah.
So very,
an
very
expensive item,
expensive. So that's one item that we're looking to shift up over for the soul lane. That's going to feel good for your Bellonas, your Amas. Even for your Mordreds if you're being a little silly about it. I think it could work out. But what else do we have here? So yeah, penetration. We got cooldown. We got a couple of those tank items. Oh yeah, starter items. We've been seeing a lot of discussion around getting int jungle starter items. One thing that we are kind of limited on right now is making new items. Those do take a lot of time. They require a lot of art resources. So one option that we want to kind of ask you guys about is how would you feel if one of the jungle starter items was strength only, and then the other one was hybrid, strength and int? Do you guys like that? Or would you rather say, I want a third option that is just for my int, I just want an int starter for jungle, or I'm chill with both? So hybrid, yes.
Seems like most people
Yes,
are saying
we call
yes,
that third option.
or a third option.
Okay.
So,
Let's see. Int only, all 3, third and a hybrid.
one strength, one hybrid, one int. Okay.
Okay, interesting. Third option. Okay, that's good to know.
Yep. Good to know. Let's us at least like scope out what we need to do to get there.
That does help us evaluate kind of what you guys are looking for. It does seem like a lot of people do want that third option. I also am curious, just in general, this is a very like opinionated question, I guess, but how would it feel as a player of a different role other than jungle if jungle was the only class that had 3 starters? Does that feel bad to you? Do you feel like we need that extra option in other places, or are you guys chill if it's just jungle that has this int option? Let's see. I don't really care. Good to know. Don't care. Give it to them. Don't mind. Jungle needs it. Need more support options.
I think support is the other role that has the most kind of diversity in it, or need for specific starter items. Because like I've played jungle Athena with like conduit gem, and it's been fine. It's not.
Yeah, if we had infinite time, infinite energy, infinite, be able to do all of those things, we would give every role 3. But as long as we're okay, going forward with just saying jungle gets the int option, and that's chill, I think that's a good pathway for us to go forward. And of course, we'll keep that in mind going forward because we have seen that suggested a ton.
Oh, yeah.
And we want to action on it. However, it does, again, take that time and that extra resources to put more into a new item. But it's good to know that you guys would rather have that new item, it looks like, for the most part, or both.
Yep.
Or both. Why not both? So that's a really great piece of feedback. Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Thanks, chat.
Yeah.
You're the
That's
best.
what we're here for, Yeah.
I think this is kind of rounding out my balance segment here. I do have one more thing to talk about here. We've got, well, actually, I guess two, kind of, sort of. Amaterasu getting a nerf. Chuck getting a buff. Fenrir. This is an important one. We are currently investigating how to fix the Instabite interaction with Ragnarok. Yes, I know this has been a very, very big topic of discussion in the community about how it feels weird for the Fenrir player. It feels even worse for the person getting bitten. So this is something that we're working through right now, literally this morning, on how to actually fix this interaction and make it feel good for you. So I'm really hoping, crossing my fingers, that we can get it into, if not a patch soon, if not the next patch soon after that.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last thing I have on my list is a Hades buff. Yeah, so I think in general, that is across the board what I have for right now.
Cool. And when does this go live? Today? Tomorrow?
Theoretically, it should be tomorrow. It might get pushed to Friday, just, based on, how we feel about a couple of these various things. But
definitely take this feedback from,
Yes, we have to definitely action on this feedback. Yeah. So, of course, we are going to be trying to push out at least something for you guys as soon as possible. And again, that's kind of what you can be expecting is your TTK/pen, your cooldown, your solo lane shifts, and then in the future sometime, it will be int starter for jungle.
Yeah. Nice.
That's what I got.
Lots of stuff. Lermy, thanks so much for walking us through it.
Yeah, of course.
Lermy's balance bit. Sweet. Well, let's get into just some community Q&A. I'm sure there's some lingering... Oh, you got something
I was just going to say, before we get started, we kind of teaser for our next two guests.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about it.
So we will have Ben, our art director, on Friday.
Yay.
And he's going to be showing off Nemesis, and also, I believe, an early look at Aphrodite.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we'll get a good look at Nemesis and Aphrodite, and maybe some other stuff that he has to show and tell. But those are the two that I know that he's going to be bringing. And whenever he's on, it's a great time to ask whatever your art questions are, because Isiah and I are aware of the art pipeline, but we are not nearly as smart or skilled as they are.
I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, so Ben is definitely the art goat.
Yeah, so definitely, like, any art questions you have, like, he loves this stuff and he can answer all of it for you. Yeah. So, and then on Monday, currently we're projecting to have Max on again to talk a little bit more about matchmaking.
Yeah.
I know that there are some additional changes that have kind of happened since the last time that we talked, and he's specifically been working on some stuff for more like casual matchmaking. I don't know if it's all rolled out yet or if some of it's still in progress, but he wanted to come on again just to kind of give you guys an update as to how things are going and what we're doing there, because we understand that matchmaking is a key concern still for the community.
Absolutely.
Max Matchmaking Monday.
That's I can't even say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
That's a tongue twister for you.
Oh, and I had one other thing that Lino asked me to mention.
Oh, yes.
Right. So if you changed... Okay, so we have the legacy names now, so you can show your Smite 1 name in Smite 2. Some people have since gone and spent gems to change their name in Smite 1, and it is not necessarily updating your Smite 2 legacy name by default when you do that. If this happens to you, please leave a bug report on our Discord, and the people who can fix it will see it, and they will be able to fix it for you. Yeah. So sorry that's not working automatically right now. It will be sometime in the near future. But yes, if you get stuck in that state where your legacy name is not showing properly, please leave a bug report on our Discord.
And we'll take care of you. Sweet. All right. Q&A time. What's going on, chat? What do y'all want to talk about?
Ask us questions.
Ask away.
Questions.
I assume we'll probably get a lot of balance questions as a follow-up to our previous discussion.
I'm sure. Why don't you change the damage or type of damage that some gods do? For example, Sobek, who's a crocodile that causes magical damage. Have we considered changing it? We did in general. There was a point in time where we had abilities doing different kinds of damage, in the god itself, and we felt like that was a little bit confusing. It was hard to build defense into. It was weird at that time. We had the penetration split up to magical and physical penetration, so that was a little bit weird. I think in general, we are mostly looking to keep them the same, but give them different scaling between strength and int as more of our focus in terms of, what you would expect them to do. Like, I think in general, like, I go into a game and I see Sobek for the first time and all of a sudden he's doing physical damage, Like, I'm not used to, thinking with my tank brain.
Yeah.
I gotta count Sobek into that spot. So I think in general we want to keep that, like, muscle memory is the way that I like to think about it the same. in terms of like, you know what you should be doing, but maybe the Sobek player has a little bit more of that, excitement around what they get to build and what they get to do versus me as the defender. That onus is not on me to figure all of that stuff out.
All right.
I'm just gonna say, some of you who are watching me may have seen I just took a picture of chat real quick with my phone. There were two specific console things that I will follow up on after this. There was one about the mouse pointer not being lined up precisely, which was not something I was aware of, but we'll follow up on. And then also in Smite 1 console, you can release your right trigger and instantly upgrade with LB and then go back to right trigger. In Smite 2, that cast the ability. We'll take a look at it.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Is chat coming next update? No, not next update. We're still working on it, but hopefully as soon as it's done.
Let's see. Do you plan to promote the game outside the U.S. and EU, like Brazil and Latin America?
Of course. Yeah. No, we promote the game, most places that it's playable. We've always had a strong audience in Brazil and Latin America, so we'll definitely promote it when the game is more widely available there. Yep. What we have seen in those regions, though, is that like the game does. All of our games have historically done much better in those regions after going free to play.
Right.
Like those players aren't as willing to buy in during the early alpha phase. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't seen much there yet, that's probably why. Once the game goes free to play, I would expect we'll do more in those regions.
Let's see here.
I got one. Will there eventually be an animation of the Titans dying instead of a fade to black end screen? Yes.
Nice.
Yes, I've heard. It's actually funny. Our level design team has 2 mats on it. So we call them the mats.
The Council of Mats.
Squared, yeah.
The mats have been working on that. They've been definitely keeping an eye out to make sure that end of match experience is feeling just right for you guys.
Yeah, just quick, Mooch Taba, Ben will be on Friday.
Yeah.
So
Woo.
definitely tune in.
Let's see. Is there any chance you guys will bring back Denton? I love Denton.
Denton, he's
such
classic,
a nerd.
He's
right?
a classic.
Yeah. Any updates on the custom build maker or sharing of custom builds? I know it was in progress. We talked about it a little bit last week on a Titan Talk.
Yeah, it's still very early.
Yeah.
But we want to get to the point where the current pitch is you can make builds on a website. People can share their builds and people can upvote them and whatnot. And then we can import those builds into the game and you can browse builds and pick a build that's good for you. Probably not happening. Definitely not happening in the near term. It's a very big arc of work to implement a system like that, but it's something that we think the game needs.
Yeah. Have we thought about getting rid of protection scaling? It doesn't seem healthy for the game.
It's a difficult question, right? Because we want there to be lots of different unique stats that we can pull into scaling of different things. And I think in general, prot scaling, when it doesn't come to damage, totally chill.
Yeah.
No one's talked about Bellona or Hades or those characters that don't do it on damage, but Bacchus and Fenrir, I think, are the two that stand out the most, as they have damage scaling off their protections. Mm-hmm. Those are definitely ones we've heard a lot of feedback on. I think in general, in the future, we want to focus more on using protection as scaling for defensive or utility stats versus using protection for offensive stats. So that's something that we're definitely keeping in mind. I don't think we want to fully remove it from these characters, at least at this point. That could change. But we will continue to nerf it if it feels like that is the thing that stands out as what is making these characters really good or really not good or whatever it may be.
Let's see here.
Ooh, okay. How often do the tooltips for gods get updated? Notice they currently don't show the base damage of auto attacks. That, my friend, is a separate issue. We previously, as I'm sure some of you guys recall, had base strength in the game where you would get some strength and then get strength per level, things like that. That tooltip was specifically built around getting that strength. So because you're getting a different stat now, it broke every single basic attack tooltip in the game. So that is a bug that we are fixing separately aside from tooltips updating. I know we talked about last time that I was here at least that tooltips sometimes don't update if you are on consoles for every single patch, but if you are in a server game, so you're in a game with other players, you will get that updated version of it right there. But if you're playing locally in like a jungle practice or by yourself, you might not see those updates, but they are actually updated. It's just about, you know, what it takes to get that certification through the door of getting the text specifically to consoles.
Let's see here. Any more item niches being targeted or new items in the pipeline?
The only new item that we've really talked about in the near future would probably be the Int Jungle starter that we just mentioned. In general, we're kind of putting a lot of our energy and resources and time into gods. We understand that items and building is still a huge part of SMITE and just MOBAs in general. So we want to make sure that we're still bringing you guys some unique ways to play and build and do all those kind of things, but we're hoping to do that a little bit more in terms of balance and with the new gods that release in ways that they can be built uniquely versus SMITE 1. We'll kind of carry that a little bit more than new items. We understand though that the store is, you know, smaller than it was in SMITE 1. There's a lot of niches that are missing right now. However, we think overall our best bet in moving forward in the short term is going to be getting more gods into your guys' hands and, you know, moving the items around with heavy balance or big shifts in that direction.
Yeah. So a question, how is Odin doing balance-wise? Any thoughts about his runes? Let's look at Odin right now. We'll pull up the laptop.
Yeah.
Odin is...
He's in the top
where is
left.
he? Yeah, he's right here.
Yeah. So Odin was very, very popular. It's still really popular in at least our weekend games that we're seeing over in the Road to Vegas. He was like, I want to say like top 5 most banned, most picked characters. And he still is very strong. And a lot of the reason that he's strong right now is because his like true counters are kind of not really in the game yet. Yeah. There's not a consistent roster of characters that can get out of the cage, go through the cage, you know, deal with it in some other measure. Or shielding is another one that comes up a lot, or interruption on his 3. So those are like some big countermeasures that, you know, a lot of characters in SMITE 1 do have. It just so happens that because not a lot of those characters are in SMITE 2 yet, that has made him pretty strong. So he has received some nerfs kind of to help manage that. We are still keeping in mind, of course, that, you know, as more characters come through, he will naturally kind of get more of those counters into the game. So we'll buff him accordingly. And we want to also keep in mind, you know, not necessarily where he is vertically on this chart, but also horizontally. Yep. And we definitely see that he's moving more in the leftward direction, which, you know, is not ideal, but that is natural. When you get nerfed, you get played less. That's just the T when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's the T.
That's
for
the
Odin.
T.
So a question, any thoughts about a fresh game mode unique to SMITE 2 in the works?
I think the priority right now is getting the most popular game modes from SMITE 1 over, because those are the things that people are asking for the most. Yeah. And I think that if we shipped something new that people did not like as well as Assault or whatever, y'all would be upset with us for not just doing Assault first. I think once we get through this kind of core 4 game modes of Conquest, Arena, Joust, Assault, then we'll take more of a look at doing something more creative with a game mode that's different. There have been a lot of talks about what that kind of thing could be, but we kind of keep going back to we're better off getting those core 4 in first.
Yeah. For the console store, is there a way to show all the items in that item filter instead of having to scroll right constantly to find the item that you want to see?
Not that I am aware of. Another thing that you can do, though, is if you know an item builds out of the same kind of base items, you can go into that item, then you can go up to builds into, and builds into will show you other kind of similar items to that item. But the SMITE 1 console item store works this same way, where basically it's kind of like pre-filters already enabled, where you go to the offense tab, you go down to strength or intelligence in SMITE 2, and then you scroll right until you find the item or until you find something that looks similar that you can then click on and then go builds into to get to it more quickly.
Yeah, it takes a muscle memory, but once you learn all the tier 1 components, I find it a whole lot easier. Like I know I want a strength item. I'm just going to click an axe, and I can see everything that that has strength on it.
It's really funny. I definitely have had an interaction in base where I've been like, what do I want to buy first? And it's usually either going to be axe or gem is like the first thing. But I'm like, oh, but what if I want Hydras here? What if I want Jotuns? Or what if I want Book? And then I'm like, I'm always buying the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely an easy way for you to go about it. Going through the tree upward versus starting from the top is definitely one way to kind of adapt to that kind of mentality. Or of course, you could try different versions of the store. Now that we have those options are available, which is really exciting to see. Oh, and also I should mention, one feature that was really exciting that we talked about when it came out initially, but being able to right-click purchases in the store, for those on PC at least, to be able to buy them in one click instead of double-clicking. It's so nice. You guys should try it.
It's very nice.
Good tech. But yeah, in general, I think that, trying out these different ways of going through the item store is definitely important because it came up a lot in our flow as well when we were examining the item store and how like the build into section was working. That was one thing that we had a really big discussion about, revamping that for the future. So making sure that if you're clicking on tier 1s, you're clicking on tier 2s, even from the tier 3s, we want to make sure that you are getting relevant information on every single screen that you're going to.
Yep. I saw a question. It was mentioned last week that we would do a potential Titan talk going over a little bit more of the first 50. People are asking, can we get a roadmap for the roadmap?
Yeah, I would say probably towards the end of next week or maybe the week after that would be the soonest that we would get around to that, because we do have the next couple shows already scheduled.
Yeah, we've got Ben on Friday, Max on Monday. So yeah, maybe towards the end of next week, early the week
or
after.
Or is end of next week when we're going to have to start showing off the next round of gods?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
We're getting kind of close,
I know, right?
Time flies.
We're moving so
schedule.
fast. Yeah, we'll look at the schedule.
When it makes sense in the schedule. We definitely are aware that we mentioned that, and we want to do that. We just need to get it put together and do the show. So.
Yeah.
What is your plans to balance healers without hurting self-healers such as Chalk?
There's definitely an option going forward for us now that we have like the self-healing versus group healing data point being separated out, that we could say self-healing reduced by X amount, or, group healing anti-healed by X amount. So I think in general, we have more options than ever for that. That hasn't really been an issue for us yet because anti-heal is still really unpopular. Guys, you should be buying anti-heal, please buy
It's real good.
But yeah, we have more options when that feedback does become more prevalent. I'm sure with Aphrodite on the way, it'll be a little bit more coming up.
Let's see here.
Will more updates come to the post-match lobby? If so, will graphs be added too? Yes, more updates will be coming. There are more stats that we want to add. And, eventually we would like to add graphs. Not immediately, I would say, but we did recently put in the tech to be able to support graphs as part of the spectator. So that's a step towards being able to have graphs in the post-match lobby. So something we definitely want to do. It's just not immediate.
Yeah. When is the balance patch that was talked about today going to drop? Potentially
in theory, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, maybe Friday. Yeah.
Between tomorrow and Friday, it'll be one of those.
Yeah. How will the layout for the store out of game be? Chests, rotating direct purchase skins, bundles? I would say we're still kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Our focus really right now is on let's make the core game great. Let's make a bunch of gods that are really fun to play. And if you want to play the game for a long time, then how we choose to monetize is less important than the game being good and you being around for it, right? I will say rotating direct purchase skins, we think is a bad business model for character-based games based on what we know from other games that we have. Because when you have a lot of gods or characters, and there isn't always a skin available for the character, that's just kind of bad. It doesn't really have the effect that you want it to have. Maybe it's fine for a single character model game, but it doesn't really work for character-based games, I don't think. So I would expect that we do not go down that route.
Yep.
Other than that, we're definitely I would expect it to look somewhat similar to Smite.
Lermy, fight for your gods, we need Karens. I'm sorry. That one made me laugh.
You gotta row it down.
Oh, man. I do have a soft spot in my heart for those guys. But I got to say, guys, The first 50 are bangers.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
all bangers.
They're great, yeah.
You know, regardless of who designed them, they are excellent characters. And, you know, I've been a Smite fan for longer than I've been making gods. So there are gods that I like
yeah.
that I didn't make too.
Yep.
So I'm totally down for what we've got. I do think that we have a lot of really good ones coming.
Yeah. There's a question about will we get a unique name system for Smite 2 as well instead of Steam names? We don't have any intention to do this. Even in Smite 1, there was not a unique name system for non-PC. It was only PC that had the Hi-Rez account names. And this led to just, I would say, a lot of issues on the support side and on just there were a lot of issues related to it, right? Because it forced you to also have this Hi-Rez account concept that just made things a lot more complicated in the back end. The way our system works now, basically you set one of your platform accounts to be your primary account, and then everything else is linked to that primary account. So having your Steam account as your primary, you could then link Xbox, PlayStation, whatever else. But then if you want to log in to do that, you're just using your Steam login or whatever. You don't need to have a separate Hi-Rez login.
Exactly.
And the other benefit for players is that you can just log in and change your
display
you can change your
name.
display name on Steam
Yeah.
if you want to, right? And then for people that want to have their legacy names shown, you know, those can carry over from Smite 1. Yeah. So.
Applying Hekate's passives after plays feels clunky since they tend to move out of range. Yes, I agree. I'd love to fix it. Unfortunately, since I didn't personally work on Hekate, I need to do a little bit more digging to be able to figure out exactly how that bad boy works to be able to get in there and make it feel better. But it's not impossible to come sometime soon because that's definitely something that I felt too. I hear you, chatter, and I want to make it better for sure.
Will you guys add a tracker for death recap that shows time CC'd, where the damage came from, etc.? We are currently working on a death recap widget, which will show you pretty clearly, hopefully, where the damage came from.
Yes.
I don't know if we have
so
time CC'd planned as part of that.
We don't necessarily have it planned, I think, but we could in the future, perhaps, because of the way that we have it set up in the systems. We have things called tags on all abilities, and so we can tell, like, a character, when they're CC immune, you are immune to the tag cc.hard.
Yeah.
So we have, you know, tags like cc.soft and things like that, and we can pull durations that you are affected by these tags and things like that. So that is a possibility for the future. You know, I'm just kind of talking out my butt here
Theoretically
because
possible.
I don't know how any of that stuff works, but I do know that if we can look at tags and we can do that, that's maybe an angle that we could do that, but that also might not work. So keep that in mind. That I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I do know how it's set up. So there's at least that.
Yeah, and that also would theoretically let us, in post-match stats, give, like, time CC'd and that kind of stuff. And that's something that is on the to-do list for the future.
There's always the weird exceptions, too, of, like, characters, like, just off the top of my head, like, ones that I could see, like, that would give us trouble in the future would be, like, Cerberus. Like, what do you consider his ultimate? Is it a knock-up? Is it a banish? You know, what exactly is that? It was a little bit conspicuous. So, like, you know, if you need to do something to a character that, you know, is a CC or, like, self-CC as well, it would be hard to filter that out specifically because, like, for Yamoja, are you counting the times that you are jumping through your own ring as things of that nature? You know, it gets a little complicated with that. So I can imagine, while we do have the very base level setup, it might not be set up in the exact way to get you the exact results that you want. So we would have to do additional work to probably clean that up in the future. And again, that's like a long-term thing, but not impossible. It's something.
Chat says you're a well, yes, but no meme today.
honestly,
Well,
yes.
but no. Yeah.
I felt that.
There's a question, will we see the same collabs like with Ruby, Nick, etc.? And if so, would they be purchasable with Legacy Gems? We will not see those same collaborations because those deals that we had with them were exclusive to Smite 1. So we cannot just bring those things over to Smite 2 based on the existing deals. And with some of them, the ownership and rights have changed in a way that we would not be able to sign new deals. Like, we actually cannot sell the Ruby skins in Smite 1 anymore even because that property changed hands and we no longer have a deal to do it. So it's one of those things that would be great, but realistically not going to happen. We are always interested in new crossovers for the future. I think our focus right now is let's make the core game great. I think crossovers are something that's fun to have that adds a little bit of intrigue to the game. They don't really work the way they used to do in terms of like bringing new players in the front door. It's more just like a fan service thing. If your existing player base has some overlap with another property, and you'll sell some skins and make people happy. So definitely would love to do more of those in the future. We have some interesting conversations going right now, but I'm kind of like backburnering them all because they're like, hey, do you want to put this thing in your game? And I'm like, that would be really cool, but we got to make like 50 gods. So let's get through that first, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I felt that. Oh, but yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I just see crossover suggestions now.
Yeah. Whenever you mention crossovers, like chat just talks about crossovers forever because they're so much fun. And I think
they're
that
great.
Yeah.
our art team is just so good.
Crazy.
Like, I feel like there's been a lot of games that have done crossovers, and I think obviously like Fortnite does an amazing job with their crossovers. They have a team of like 8,000 people, so of course they do. But I think that like our crossovers are just right up there with anybody else in the business.
Absolutely.
Like we do the characters so much justice. There's so much character in them. Like anyway, I'm very very excited about the way that our team handles those, and love to do more of them in the future. But just for right now, I think we need more gods more than we need some random crossover.
Yeah.
There's a question about Conquest, and I can't answer specifics about new objectives, but I will say that we are keeping a close eye in general on free-to-play when it comes to Conquest and making that feel really fresh, really fun for that like timeline. So I would say, expectations in terms of new things, exciting things are more in that direction versus any time in between. But we're definitely keeping an eye on your guys' suggestions and what you guys really like from Smite 1 and just in general, inspirations, things like that. We want to keep testing things, and we've been testing things basically every day. I want to say, like in our playtest, we've been doing a lot of testing.
In order to be able to move this fast publicly, like we've had to move really quickly on the dev side too, and just try a lot of stuff. We've had a lot of iterations that have happened recently that have not gone live because we want to try something really quickly. Sometimes some of the stuff has gotten data mined, and we're like, oh no, we've already moved on from that idea. That's not going to happen anymore. But I think the team's moving on, firing all cylinders, whatever you want to say. Like the team's doing really good work really quickly, and we're trying a lot of interesting things. I also have seen this controller vibration stuff that I think we need to look at because that's come up a couple times in chat today.
I also want to mention the Morgan stuff that we've been seeing. We've definitely gotten a lot of feedback that there is still some issues with Morgan targeting both on console and on PC across the various casting types. Those are things that we're looking into right now. It's hard to nail those down. Crazily enough, you think, if these issues are like really widespread, they'd be pretty easy to track down, but just because of how many different ways that you can interact with this menu and how it's set up and comparing it to Smite 1, it starts to have a lot of variables that come up. So we're still testing through as many of those scenarios as we can, trying to pick out the ones that feel bad or aren't the same as Smite 1 and fixing them. So while we are aware that these things are happening, the solutions will come a bit slower than, we might want to, if we could just do it instantly, if it was any other like kind of issue. But of course, it's got to be Morgan, So it is stuff that we're looking at, but issues or solutions to those issues will come in as we get those really consistent repros to reproductions, I should say. Repros is like our shorthand internally for saying like how you make
how make bug happen.
How make bug happen.
The repro. What's the repro?
There's a question a little bit earlier talking about crossovers. If those come to Smite 2 in the future, would they be focused more on crossing over with IPs that have a specific focus on mythology or specifically gods from other universes? So if you would do another Magic crossover, would you focus more on the gods within the Magic universe rather than the Planeswalkers? When we do a crossover, it's important that we hit on the most popular characters from that IP because people are going to want to play as the most popular characters, the ones that are the most beloved to them. And in Magic, those are kind of the core Planeswalkers, really, right? And then Atraxa is not a Planeswalker, but is just an incredibly popular character.
My goat, for real.
Yeah. If we were to cross over with an IP that is more focused on gods, like things that I've heard the community say a lot, and this is not me saying that we're going to do them, but, like Fate Stay comes up a lot, the Supergiant games, God of War, like other mythological games that have like gods as their core characters, then those would be the characters that you would cross over with because they're the most popular characters. But if we're crossing over with an IP that has a god in it that isn't the most popular character, then they're probably not going to be in the game. I would say also just like, not specifically talking about any of those, but anytime we've talked to like more mythological IPs, I think they're more concerned about crossing over with us because it's like, it's hard to differentiate between mythological IPs and they don't necessarily want to like get their versions of the gods crossed with our versions of the gods. Like there's kind of like a,
it's a little bit of that like identity and character that you kind of want to keep that like IP feeling like this is the Thanatos from Smite or this is the Thanatos from Hades. Like they're definitely the same mythological reference, but they're two very different characters, which starts to, you know, get again a little bit fuzzy in terms of that IP that you want it to be like really, really strong that this is our Thanatos or this is that Thanatos. And, you know, they are the same, again, reference, but different interpretations.
Yeah. So, again, not saying we're going to do any of that, but we definitely hear the community has brought those things up a lot of times and something we would look into.
Yeah. Can we get the option to force gods to use their default voice pack, at least on the player's end?
I don't know. I would assume that our audio is not hooked up in a way to do that, but I can ask.
Yeah, because I know in Smite 1 you have if you can choose the default or the skin
for yourself.
Yeah, for yourself.
Yeah.
Was this asking for yourself or for other players?
For yourself.
Oh, I don't know. I can take a look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're already at 2:02.
Oh my God.
My goodness.
We're just
Time
flying.
does fly.
Time for one more
last
question.
One more question. One more question.
I'll answer this one. Once we get to 50 gods, what will the schedule be like for brand new Smite 2 gods? So our goal is to kind of be at roughly the same pace for brand new gods that we were in Smite 1's heyday. You know, we're about every 2 months or so, there's a brand new Smite 2 god. But then we have a very steady pace of classic Smite 1 gods with +1s that are coming over between those. So, you know, every few weeks you're still going to be getting new gods to play with, but just every 2 months or so, probably a brand new god is the current plan. That could always change. You know, we have shown already we're willing to be very flexible and listen to the community and do things. But that's what we think the sweet spot would be.
Guys, chat really wants a spoiler. Can we give them something, a little crumb?
Can we get a
little crumb?
Give it just a small
Little crumb?
Do you want to give him a nemesis one, or do you want to say who the another god in that update? Or
I feel like we just drop another god for the next patch. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to do it?
It's Capri.
Yay! Capri!
Yeah, the hug bug coming
Yeah.
through. He looks really good. Yeah, excited to have Capri in the game. Have a revive.
Yeah, we're talking about it while we were on the wait screen. It's just really nice to add just like another backline focused support.
Yeah.
Smite 1 has Smite 2 has a lot of really, really good aggressive supports right now. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens when the hug bug enters the mix here.
I'm so excited.
So we've confirmed that Capri and Nemesis are supposed to be in the next update, and there will be a third
Yes,
god
there will
as
be a
well.
third.
More,
So
one more.
pretty exciting. Just in 2 weeks, you know, we'll have 3 more gods, and not even 2 weeks from now, really.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy. It's crazy how fast we're
make
going.
Capri's 3 insta kill, please.
True.
It's not.
We already gave a support and execute, you know.
Yeah. I will answer one more question just because this person has asked a lot of times, and I don't want them to feel like we aren't listening to them. He's been asking about Kleena a lot. Kleena is a really fun character in Smite 1.
I love her.
She has the most complicated, unique tech in the game with her ability to go inside of geometry, inside of walls, and then do things coming out of those walls. Because of that, she's going to be a much more challenging character for us to implement, and is not going to be part of the first 50. Just because it's a really big tech ask to get her in. And we're trying to get gods that we can get in that are iconic and we can do relatively quickly to be able to get to this 50, right? So I understand there's a lot of Kleena enjoyers in chat, and we need
too.
to...
I feel you.
Yeah, we definitely need to get to her, but not in this first wave. So sorry for the bad news.
I remember when Kleena was first getting developed, like how intense the testing was around that tech to make sure that players couldn't get themselves stuck in geometry, couldn't, die in geometry, things like that, making sure that they were resolving correctly. The presentation of how it looked is also really important.
Both
so there's
to
just
yourself and to enemies.
Oh yeah, there's so many just pieces of that puzzle that continue to add up over time, that when it comes to developing a feature like that. I think in general also one thing that we had talked about last time, at least that I was here, is that when we develop what gods, we kind of have a little bit in mind in the schedule to incrementally add new things. Kleena has a lot of new things.
Yes.
A lot. So we want to make sure that we get more of those pieces before it's time for Kleena to make her mark.
Yeah, one of the ones that I bring up frequently is like, we don't have an 8-way dash in Smite 2 right now, which is, like Achilles or Rama or the other gods have this like kind of 8-way, you can move in one of those directions.
Thoth, Newt.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, right? And we don't have that yet for Smite 2. So we need to build that for a character before we bring over a lot of characters with it, right?
Yeah. So in general, that's just something that we'd like to keep in mind. It doesn't mean that we won't push more complex gods at any given point, if we think that we have the bandwidth for it. But it's all got to come piece by piece and make
With
sure
time.
that, things will come with time.
I've seen just a version of this question a lot, so I will pick this one. Basically, plans for other cosmetics besides skins, so like level up skins, jump stamps, things like that.
I would say we've had discussions about other cosmetic types, but other than the loading card stuff that we've already put in, we have not done any work on it, and we haven't really done much more than early thinking. I think those extra in-game cosmetics are fun. I think the global emotes are definitely the coolest ones, and
Love
I think we
those.
made those a lot better in Smite 2, and hopefully we'll be continuing to put out more of those, and hopefully letting people equip more of them at once, so you could potentially use like 3 different global emotes in the course of a match, or 4
I
different
can't
global
decide
emotes.
which one to
I
use
know,
at
they're
this
all
point.
so
There's
good.
so many good ones.
So
You
I
need
think,
one for every situation too, right?
Yeah.
I think like death stamps were probably the worst Smite 1 cosmetic in terms of like people didn't like it.
Yeah.
I think jump stamps could be fun, but some people didn't like them because they were noisier. I think most people liked recall skins and level up animations, generally speaking. But really none of it is on our roadmap right now. We're just like, let's make some gods, let's get some
make
skins
some
in eventually,
gods.
let's focus on the stuff we have.
Well, speaking of making gods, I got a smoke test ticket.
Oh, yeah, we're so late. We're so late.
Sorry.
Did everybody do one more question? Are we good?
I think so.
I think so.
All right, I think we're good.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for hanging out. We will
guys.
see you on the next edition of Titan Talk Friday. Well, I've been on showing off Nemesis and Aphrodite potentially,
And whatever else
Until
Ben
then-
has.
Yeah, whatever else Ben has. I'm sure it'll be some amazing eye candy for y'all to show up. But yep, until then, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Peace.
Bye.